All of that at the new Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. Historic, iconic, and expensive. Begging the questions, as with taxpayers in so many states and cities, what's this costing me? In the case of the big ball yard in the Bronx, the Brookings Institute analysis of that $2.5 billion ballpark includes this gem. The use of federal tax-exempt bonds effectively gave the Yankees a $430 million federal subsidy. And if you add the taxes saved by people who bought those bonds, that's another $61 million. So the full loss to the U.S. Treasury from building Yankee Stadium is about $500 million, according to this analysis. And if you add up the 36 new ballparks and stadia built since the turn of the century and do similar math, what did the federal tax-exempt bonds cost you as taxpayers? The numbers, they say, $3.7 billion. And now a pair of U.S. senators have introduced a bill. It's a bipartisan bill to bar the financing of new stadia with federal tax-exempt municipal bonds. Senator James Lankford, Republican of Oklahoma, Senator Cory Booker, Democrat of New Jersey. They are the co-sponsors of this bill. Gentlemen, welcome. Senator Lankford, this is something I'm aware that you've talked about for several years. Why do you believe this is a vital issue?
Yeah, well, it's one of many issues. It's not like the core issue of the whole federal government. But when we're looking at $500 billion in overspending just this year, you've got to kind of look around and to say where are the many little spots that collected together drive us to overspend. And so when you ask a question, what should the federal taxpayer pay for? You have to ask the question, should we be paying for stadiums? It's as simple and straightforward as, should the people of Oklahoma pay for a stadium in Kansas or Nebraska or in New York, or should the people of Oklahoma pay for a stadium in Oklahoma?
And Senator Booker, what brought you to this issue?
Well, I feel very strongly about that as well. I mean, you have billions of dollars being spent by the federal government to build stadiums, really going into business enterprises that are extraordinarily profitable and don't need that kind of investment. On top of that, this idea that they somehow, as you said, the Brookings Institution has showed us that these are not really producing the kind of benefits to our nation that you would expect for that kind of investment. And at a time that as government dollars are scarce, at a time that we need to be investing in our roads and our bridges and our crumbling infrastructure, which actually does produce a return for economic growth for our country, significantly more than anything like this investment. I just think this is a giveaway of taxpayer dollars that's unnecessary and unjustifiable.
Senator Lankford, I would imagine the language of your proposed bill would raise some eyebrows in the sports establishment. Have you had any conversations in that venue with some of the commissioners' offices or the lobbyists?
We have not had a conversation back with them yet. We continue to be able to raise this issue, but quite frankly, my response to them before they even call and be able to ask about it is, in Oklahoma, we built a Chesapeake Arena, have a very profitable Oklahoma City Thunder team there, but the city of Oklahoma City and the state of Oklahoma actually funded that. We did our own tax policy. We created it. We built it. We put it together. Didn't ask the federal taxpayers to be able to put anything into it. So no one from New York helped fund the Oklahoma City Thunder. We did that in Oklahoma through our own tax dollars and revenue. If private businesses want to do that, states and counties want to do that, they can choose to do that. Just don't ask somebody from one state to fund something in another state that really doesn't benefit that state.
I remember about 10 years ago, Senator Booker, you were coming in as the new mayor of the city of Newark. They're about to open the Rock, and you were rather skeptical about some of the financing of that entire process. You had some conversations with the New Jersey Devils. I believe you got some concessions. What were those conversations like?
Well, again, I just want to echo what Senator Lankford said is, from the Giant Stadium to the arena in Newark, New Jersey paid for that. The city of Newark paid for that, not federal tax bills. These stadiums can be built. They don't need federal giveaways. But again, I was one of those people openly skeptical about the public investment that was going into the Devils Arena, especially if there were competing needs for investment at a time that the city of Newark was on the verge of a financial meltdown because of the global recession. When police officers were being laid off, we were putting a lot of public money into something. So I had a lot of concerns. I think every time you spend a taxpayer dollar, we should really be thinking very strongly about, is this the highest and best use of that taxpayer dollar, or is it something that taxpayers shouldn't be paying for? And that's something I did when I was mayor of Newark. Look, I'm a Democrat, but I'm not sure if anybody has a record of cutting government more than I did when I was an chief executive. We had to cut our government 25%, painful cuts, but we wanted to make sure that every taxpayer dollar, every time I was taxing a New Jersey resident or a Newark resident, we were using it for the highest and best use. And so folks have just got to ask themselves, I'm hoping we can get a lot of bipartisan support for this bill. Should these major economic enterprises that make billions of dollars in profit. Should we be, as federal taxpayers, paying for arenas and stadiums around the country? I just think that most Americans will say that that's not something we should be paying for. It doesn't mean we shouldn't have them. Look at what they did in Oklahoma. If people really believe in them, let's find a way locally to pay for them if we believe that there's going to be a benefit locally.
I've got about 30 seconds. You gentlemen may not be aware, Steve Scalise has been upgraded to fair condition. We heard that news just about 30 minutes ago. It's been a week since that tragic shooting. We heard the talk for the need for a new atmosphere in Washington. Senator Lankford, have you seen a change in the last week?
I think there has been some interaction. There's been a lot of conversation with people just back and forth with different members, and a lot of conversation about death coming to our offices and just the absurdity about words and disagreements and how people can respond to that. So while every person's responsible for their own actions, the person that's shot Steve Scalise is responsible for his own actions and what he chose to do. It is also responsibility for us as a nation to say we can disagree on things and verbally disagree on those things. That's the right as Americans. When it raises the level of violence, it's never appropriate for us to be able to do that. Let's solve it by talking it out.
Gentlemen, I appreciate your time. Cory Booker, James Lankford, U.S. Senators, thank you, and thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.